We're heading over to Senator Moreno.
Well, thank you, Chairman, for the time for the hearing. I think it's very timely. I think one of the things I'd like to say at the beginning, especially for people watching this, is this can be a very clinical conversation. We're talking about debanking, but the reality is you have entrepreneurs that are absolutely getting devastated by these policies. I think it's hard for some of my colleagues who've only been maybe attorneys or career politicians to know what it feels like as an entrepreneur to chase a dream and have that dream completely crushed, not because you had a bad idea, but because you had a government that was looking out for itself and not looking out for you. So let me just say that from the beginning. Let me start with you, Mr. McCauley. What type of cryptocurrency did Al Capone use?
I would say that primarily the privacy coin known as the US dollar.
Gotcha. Okay, so I'll look that one up, see if we can ban that one. How about Pablo Escobar, my fellow Colombian who gave a lot of reputational risk to fellow Colombians in what he did? What kind of crypto did he use?
I don't think he used any crypto.
Gotcha. How about Meyer Lansky?
Not sure.
There were some comments about dictators in North Korea being empowered by crypto. How about Ferdinand Marcos? What was his cryptocurrency of choice?
He did not have one.
Joe Kennedy?
Did not have one.
Okay, gotcha. So maybe money laundering wasn't invented by digital currencies. Would that be fair to say?
Very fair to say.
Okay. Let's move on to this topic of Mr. Gannon. By the way, your bank helped me start my business. Let me just give that little disclaimer up front. I appreciate your former chairman.
We're proud to know that, Senator.
Mr. Fish was very helpful, so let me just get that conflict out. I've subsequently sold all my businesses, so I have no conflicts. But let me just say this. How much of loans do you just automatically forgive? Like, I was a really good client. Made payments. When could I call you and ask you to forgive my loan?
I don't believe you could do that, Senator.
Gotcha. So I'm curious because there was a conversation from one of my fellow senators earlier about the rogueness of the Trump administration, and yet Joe Biden illegally, according to the Supreme Court, forgave student loans. And I don't remember that outcry, that need for an immediate Senate hearing on why we were not forgiving, not chasing, why we'd forgive student loans. Now, maybe my Democrat colleagues think it's great that somebody becomes a gender studies major at Brown and racks up $200,000 student debt. But I had technicians working for me that racked up thousands of dollars in tool loans that the bank wasn't really. So what's wrong with a technician that a gender studies major should get their loans forgiven? And why aren't we seeing outrage on that, Mr. Gannon? Have you ever heard of such a thing as loan forgiveness from banks? And please give me the name of that bank.
I don't have a name for you, Senator, but what I can say is some of my best friends at the banks where I've worked were credit risk analysis, and they look very hard at each loan, and they analyze the credit. And if we make the loan, we expect you to repay it.
Oh, that seems like an impossible standard. So let's move on, Mr. Ring, to you on this topic of regulation. It seems like there's a debate in this room of who's caused debanking. The good news is we agreed that there's debanking. I think that should be the first headline. The most
not so long ago,
thing.
People were denying.
Right, so we've agreed on that. That's an incredible accomplishment of the 119th Congress. We've reached that conclusion. So the question becomes, why and who's responsible? Now, in your mind, do you think that is it easy for a small community bank, let's say, for example, in Montpelier, Ohio, to compete with JP Morgan Chase or Bank of America?
It's almost impossible. I find that about 75% of our time is spent serving regulators and only 25% serving customers. And when you're on small margins of a community bank, you cannot compete with the big guys easily. Now, we're working hard at it, but it is very hard. Because we have the same regulations as a big bank, but yet we have less people and less money.
So you don't have 2,000 lawyers at your beck and call?
Unfortunately, I'm both the lawyer and the CEO along with my wife. So we
probably HR also.
She is, and marketing.
All right, there you go. And Mr. Ring, I actually applaud your testimony around helping working class Americans that are getting crushed by banks. I think it's fair to say a lot of people know somebody or have themselves been screwed by banks. I think that's fair to say, and I appreciate that you're doing that. But I think it's competition that ultimately makes that go away. Don't you think, like, if there's just a lot more banks, a lot more choices, don't you think that's the best elixir?
So America has almost 10,000 banks and credit unions. I think that there are some serious structural problems.
How many did we have 10 years ago?
We had more, Senator.
How many did we have 20 years ago?
We had a lot more because you couldn't bank in multiple
So
states.
competition's dropped.
If you want more banks,
So competition's dropped dramatically. So let me just end with this, and I hope my colleagues understand philosophically as a business guy, the most greedy organization on the planet is the government. You pay your taxes, Mr. Klein, 1 day late. What do you get paid? What do you pay, like a $5 overdraft fee? No. You get late charges, interest that would make the mafia jealous. So let's just understand that the reason the government is so damn greedy is because there's no competition in government. We need more competition in banking. That will fix this.
Thank you, sir.